Dan, we are back at it for episode 101.
Yeah, but I gotta say, I guess I'm not sure how to say this, but you look a little different. That look on your face, something seems off here.
Uh, Something seems off. I would say that about you. Why are you staring at me like this?
Well, in our episode 100, you made reference to how I let comments get under my skin, and I sometimes overreact, or I always voice my opinion on them. And it seems to me, as I was cruising through some of your comments on one of your recent videos, you kind of did the same thing.
I plead the fifth here. Well, let's just say we all have our breaking point, right? We have our saturation point. I would point out to you, however, on that comment, and it did get a little, I don't know what the right word is, not salty, but I was a little firm in my reply. I was defending the firewood industry. I wasn't defending myself. I would point that out to you. The guy was, we've had multiple podcasts about this topic, and it was about bundled firewood and ripping people off. And I just get tired of it. And I just had to defend the industry.
All right. Well, we'll go with that then.
Yeah.
I was thinking more like I was starting to rub off on you, and you were kind of picking up a little bit of a heel. The heel was coming out in you. I was bringing it out of you, but all right.
I have typed up many a reply over these years, and then I've just deleted them, I put out one reply once, and it sat out there for like 15 minutes. Then I went back and deleted it. I am pretty good at doing that. In this case here, I stand by what I wrote, and it's just whenever I think the firewood industry is turning the corner, and then I deal with this kind of stuff. The guy, it was the typical bundle criticism. And this guy just does not see the world through anyone else's eyes but his own. And he just did all of these calculations about how much money extra I'm charging someone for a third of a cord of firewood that are all wrapped in individual bundles, and how big of a ripoff that is, and that these people here, are just getting their money taken by people like me. And that is just a preposterous argument. And I just couldn't take it. And that's why I replied the way I did.
All right. Well, I see you getting a little hot over there. Let's bring things down a little bit here now. I didn't mean to get you all worked up like this.
Well, it is aggravating, and I referred the poster of why doesn't he send that comment to Home Depot and call up Home Depot and accuse them of ripping people off because they sell play sand in a 50-pound bag for $5 when you could go buy an entire ton of it for $40.
Yeah, I like that. I like that analogy there, that like comparison. I did like that.
Yeah, this happens everywhere. The Dr. Pepper example, the 20-ounce bottle, it costs more than the 2-liter bottle, and I had said, why don't you send that reply to them? This is called capitalism. It is called customer choice. And did it ever occur to him that maybe the consumer doesn't want a third of a cord of firewood? They just want a couple armloads. What is the big deal? What are you doing to me, Dan?
The big deal is you're ripping people off, man.
Oh, gosh. Well, what really got me, though, was did you read that? He was predicting the downfall of firewood because of our business practices.
Yep.
And that's why everyone's using electricity now, because we sell firewood in bundles. Just an outrageous comment. And then, I don't know, I'm not a professional psychologist, but I am an amateur psychologist. And this guy here, came out and said that he is going to love it by watching all of us go out of business. And I think that's weird when a
Yeah,
person finds pleasure in watching others suffer.
right.
You know, I read into that kind of stuff, and that makes me scratch my head. I don't know.
Well, there
I don't
definitely
know.
is a lot of I don't want to say misinformation, but there's a lot of information out there when it comes to the topic of firewood that I think people just I don't know what it is, but I really appreciated that comparison of the buying the sand. I like that one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the exact same thing. It is a bulk commodity, sand. There's a big sand pit up about an hour from here. I guess, the way the geology is with the Great Lakes and stuff. And you can get sand. I mean, it's pretty cheap.
Yeah,
Or you could go buy a 50-pound bag of it at the hardware store and you pay $5 to $10 for it. Um, our local gas station sells mulch in plastic bags. You can go on and on and on. And what is it? Why do people get so upset about firewood? What the heck am I missing here?
I
And
don't
and
know.
and there are millions of bundles sold in this country every year. Millions.
Yeah,
So how so by definition I'm saying people are not getting ripped off. There is a market that is being met. And just because this guy doesn't agree with it doesn't mean that millions of people are wrong. You know?
I
Come
know.
on, man. Get over
Yeah.
yourself. That was
I definitely think you should start like a Google Sheets tracker and put all your comment replies there first, and then don't delete them. Save them so we can go through. One day we can look back and read through all the what would have been replies.
Oh, wow. I had always said if there could ever be an invention where a computer could read my thoughts and verbalize them when I was a softball coach, the things that I would say inside my head, you know, about game situations or the other coaches and stuff
Yep.
would just be yeah, it could be probably a best-selling book. Yeah, but talk about firewood, and I don't want to call this misinformation, but we had mentioned this in the past where, man, we need to get a scientist on the
Yeah.
podcast because
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions that I am sure that the answer is out there. It is already known, and I'm not one to want to reinvent the wheel. But I had received, Dan, an email, and it did not come to the Woodhounds inbox. It came to my own. And I wanted to share this because I found this as an interesting email. Um, it made a number of claims about firewood. And I think I have said this before. I don't want this to sound rude, but I don't believe what anyone tells me. I if it sounds interesting, I think it's worth looking into, and I'll do my own research. It's kind of like you remember the firewood is being banned in New York, you
Yes.
know,
Yep.
and you had an option there. You could forward this along and start complaining, or you could look into it to see if it's actually true. Or the other one was that there's only 25 days of diesel fuel left.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, and if you believed that, I would say that since there is still diesel fuel, that there's maybe that was an opportunity. If it happens again, you can see and do your own research and see if this claim is actually true. So I got this email, and it's from his name is Wayne, and he is a follower of. I'm going to assume both of our YouTube channels. It seems like whoever follows mine follows yours. And he claims in his email that he was alerting me to potential lawsuits in the future.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Ooh.
because the firewood that I'm selling to smokers, namely cherry, I think that's technically black cherry. It's very plentiful out here in my part of the country, and the smokers love it. And that's my favorite smelling firewood. Just love the smell of it when I'm making it. So he claims that cherry wood has high levels of benzaldehyde and cyanide in it. In it.
Mm.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. Benzaldehyd. Benzaldehyde. And he's claiming that the smoke contains these chemicals, which gets into the food and can poison people who eat their food that has been smoked with cherry firewood.
Oh
Okay.
my goodness. Wow. That is a lot to take in there. You had me at science, email, and cherry, but now I'm getting now I'm getting this is getting a little this is getting interesting. So
Yeah,
he's saying you may potentially be in danger of a lawsuit because you sell cherry wood to smokers that then poisons their customers.
I think that's right. And I think any type of consumer product, has consumer product liability.
Yeah.
So, okay, so this would be no different than if I'm selling treadmills, and someone gets hurt on a treadmill, or you're selling a log splitter and someone unfortunately gets hurt with a log splitter. There's that level of liability, I guess. And so here we are now. He's alerting me that I could be, looking at trouble down the road because of the wood smoke. So I have never heard of benzaldehyde. I think I did, but I don't know if I have ever had. I've heard of cyanide, and I
Yep.
I think that's probably pretty bad. And
Perhaps.
yeah, and I'm going to be totally honest. This is not the first time I have heard this. I have heard this from a rancher. He raises cattle out here in my area, and he had told me this a number of years ago about cherry firewood. It puts cyanide into the meat when you smoke it, and it's poisonous. Okay. He didn't mention benzaldehyde. So anyhow, I thought instead of just forwarding this along and think, "Holy cow, I need to, watch myself here," I thought I would look into it, just like I did when I heard that firewood was being banned in the state of New York.
Right.
So I
You
look,
did.
so I
Yeah.
I look into it.
You didn't call up log hauler Jesse and say, "Hold all cherry logs. Don't bring them over."
Yeah, and why is it too? My favorite smelling firewood. Now this guy's saying that it's
Yeah.
poisonous. It's just like Oreo cookies. It's just like Whoppers. As I throw away my Whopper wrapper right
Yeah.
now.
Well, that's where I'm interested to hear about this because I'm wondering if it's one of those things where it's such a small percentage of, that whatever.
Yeah. So here's the deal. If you live near a big city, or if you live near a bigger state college, they will have these extensions. It's usually an agricultural extension where they put people with skill sets in there to help the local farming community. So I wanted to look to their knowledge base, because I'm sure that they have like some research in there. The challenge though is when you're researching academia, and that's where I'm saying like the people that would do these studies about wood smoke and cyanide content in wood mass would come out of a college, and those research articles aren't really gettable through Google. You sometimes have to subscribe to some type of clearinghouse, that the colleges use and stuff, which us normal people don't have.
Right.
And
Okay.
then if you have a history of like researching classic Ford cars, anytime that you do a automotive search through Google, Google tailors itself to your search history. So you may not see articles about Chevrolets. Am I making sense here?
Yes.
As
Yep.
much as you would for Fords, because that's way if you use your own Google account for your own research, it's already biased towards your own biases. You're not going to see the real thing. But I started typing around about wood smoke and cherry, and there is some information that is out there. And I wanted to share what I had found because I think this is kind of interesting. The
Yeah.
first the first thing to clear right now is this benzaldehyde. Okay, now this is true. It is in wood smoke. It's very real. It's mostly in um, uh, hold on.
I was just
It
going to ask,
is
is it an all wood smoke or just specific species of wood?
well, I guess it's in everything though. It's found in baked goods, it's in dairy, it's in fruit juices, it's in candy and pudding and alcoholic beverages.
Oh,
And
crap.
as I read into it, because it sounds bad, it's not bad for you.
Huh.
Yeah, and it has been it doesn't have any toxicity. It has not been linked to any cancers, and it has like a I guess I don't want to call it the seal of approval, but it's listed as a GRAS, which is a generally regarded as safe food additive. And that's by like the United States National Institute of Health, and it's also like in Europe too with the Eurozone, because they
Oh,
got more strict
yeah,
regulations over there than what we do.
definitely. So
Okay,
it just
so
it
Ben,
just has a bad name. It just sounds bad.
yeah, well, I mean, it's still a chemical. I
Yeah.
think if you, depending on your level of health interest, you probably want to avoid that kind of stuff. But it's regarded as it's not bad for you. Okay, so that's what I'm looking into, the benzaldehyde. Wow, if I would have quit selling cherry because of that, I wouldn't have made a great decision. So the second one though is cyanide, which we all know is bad, and that's where it got back to that rancher I told you about. And what I had found through the research is these cherry trees, it's in the leaves. There's cyanide in the green leaves, and it's not as high like in the fall when they fall off the tree on the ground. But I guess like ranchers got to watch if they have these trees that are on the borders of their fields. These animals can eat it, and if they eat enough of them, they can die. I mean, we're
Oh,
talking a lot, but
yeah.
it is very real. So I still am not satisfied with that because it's in the leaves. Does that mean it is in the wood? And if it is in the wood, does it get into the smoke when the stick of wood is lit on fire? Because fire is a chemical reaction, and sometimes fire creates bad chemicals, and then sometimes I think maybe it creates or it burns up chemicals to where they're not as bad to breathe as they would to be ingested in food. I don't know. So the more I dug into it, the more I couldn't find a definitive answer. So there is cyanide in cherry leaves, but what are the levels in cherry smoke? I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
I that is so. I wonder then with the leaves, is it also if you like burn the leaves, the smoke from the leaves, or is it just digesting the leaves?
So I don't have the answer to that because, if even if they are in there, does when they get lit on fire, what does that do to the cyanide? I don't
Yeah,
know how cyanide reacts when it's burnt.
right. If it
Does it
breaks
become,
down,
yeah, yeah, does it become an aerosol or does it become a particulate or
yeah,
does the burning process render it inert?
right.
So I
It'll
don't,
burn it
yeah.
right up.
So I can't answer that, but it's interesting. And that's where I'm saying, Dan, we need to get a scientist on here because darn well this is common knowledge to some bookworm, from the local college that could speak to this.
Well, I was just gonna say the way you were sounding off with all this stuff, you dang near were gonna be our scientist.
I just find this interesting. I do. And I like learning new things and looking into stuff and testing my own hypotheses. I just find this interesting. So, however, Dan, I didn't stop there.
Oh, you go further. Okay,
I
that's
did. I'm becoming an amateur scientist.
see, I knew it. I knew you were gonna take this role on.
I am a scientist hobbyist. Yeah.
Bang.
Yeah, so I didn't stop there. So during all of this looking around, I mean, I was just Googling just the obvious stuff. Is there cyanide in wood smoke? And then you hear like wood smoke's got all kinds of bad stuff in it, formaldehyde and all kinds of particulate matters that we all know are bad for us. Um, but then I found an article, and it's posted on the Cleveland Clinic's website. And if you don't know, the Cleveland Clinic is arguably the greatest hospital in the world. And when you hear when something is backed by the Cleveland Clinic, it
It's legit.
carry some weight with it. Yeah. So I found this article, and it was written by a dietitian who works for the Cleveland Clinic, and it's about barbecue, eating barbecue. And the article is called "Are Smoked Meats Bad for Your Health?" And maybe we should put the link to this in our podcast notes for people who
All
find
right.
this interesting.
Yeah.
But the takeaway from this was, um, the dietitian, she just comes right out and says that smoked meats should be regarded as contaminated meat.
What?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
And that's what the smoking process is. It is putting all types of chemicals and particulate matters. She calls them polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons,
Oh boy.
also known as PHHs, and heterocyclic amines, HCAs.
Wow.
And that's when I had read one time, didn't you ever hear like eating like the char, if meat is burnt, can cause colon cancer, you know? And that's where that, not only like the smoking it, but like if the meat gets charred, it creates these HCAs, which are linked to cancer. Because haven't you heard about eating red
Yeah.
meat
Yep. Yep.
increases your risk of cancers?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, and here I got this simple email about cyanide in my wood smoke, and here I'm reading this article from the Cleveland Clinic about the hazards of eating barbecued meat, and the fact that they call it contaminated meat, it kind of hit hard.
Ooh. Yeah, and
Yeah.
those were some big scary words that you were using there with the what is it?
P.
THC or
Yeah.
what?
PAH.
PAH.
PAH. Polycyclic aromatic hydrocar hydrocarbons.
Yeah, that does not sound good. That sounds
Yeah, it's just depressing. I think of all my Oreo cookies, all my Whoppers, and oh, I love barbecue. But I've always known that shouldn't come as a surprise, really, to all of us about red meat, barbecue. It's not good for you, cholesterol, all that
yeah.
other stuff. Yeah, but the wood smoke thing, that was really interesting. Now I think this article though it obviously spells out the hazards of all this stuff, but it doesn't. I think they're being realistic here. People just aren't going to quit eating it. I know some
Yeah.
people that have had major health scares change their diets radically, because they're motivated to do it. But
They limit and in moderation enjoy like smoked meats or something like this. It wouldn't be a complete no more. They might just limit how much.
yeah, well, they go on to say too, though, that this isn't the bad news. Just doesn't stop here.
Oh my.
because, yeah, because it is not just smoked meats. They've also found that smoked cheeses have the same. It's more highly concentrated in the rinds of the cheese instead of the the entire block of it. Um, yeah, so really, all your smoked products out there can have the PAHs in them.
PAHs, but so
Yeah,
it's not just cherry. Then it's all smoked meat, smoked foods.
yeah. Well, cherry specific to the cyanide, and that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. That I cannot conclude that that's the case, and it may
Hmm.
very well be, but I'm not going to say that it is. I'd have to see literature out there that would tell me, that's conclusive one way or the other. Or maybe it's in all woods. So, but this article though gives us 6 tips to smoking meat and staying healthy. And the first one though was they think if you smoke white meats, it's actually not as bad for you as red meats. I think that's because of that red meat deal, you know.
Yeah.
But they say to use quality hardwoods. They say don't use pine, which I know you love to do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but not for smoking my meats.
Uh
Just
huh.
cooking my dinners.
Yeah. They say to choose lean cuts of meat. They recommend not to smoke fish because fish is a very healthy diet choice, but they say it often has higher levels of contaminants due to the
Yeah,
surface area. I guess they can
and,
collect
and
more.
living in the river full of mercury. There's plenty of things wrong with fish besides smoking it, I think sometimes.
Yeah, and they said that you really using liquid smoke is a safer alternative. I
Huh.
guess like a spray on tan.
Yeah, there you go. Wow.
Yeah, so just a simple email I got led me down this rabbit hole. And that's what happens when it rains in Northeast Ohio. I sit at my desk with my computer and I just start Googling. And then the next thing I know, I'm in Bangladesh writing the perfect song with Jim Morrison, you know?
Yeah, but again, I think this is one of those things where if you looked at the ingredients of anything out there, there's always these little things that somewhere someone wrote an article how it's not good for you, but no one ever said, like it's in this case, how much smoked meat would you need to eat every day for this to actually impact your life? You
Yeah.
know, that's where I don't know if they cover that. Like, can you eat it once a week? Once a
Well,
month?
wherever that line is drawn, I've crossed it. I consider that occupational hazard. Whenever I deliver to these restaurants, they always give me free food, and who am I to turn it? I'm not. It would be rude for me to turn it down. Yeah. So Dan, that was my shot at amateur scientist.
I'm blinded with science right now. Let me tell you,
I've
I don't know
I've
what to think.
blinded both of us with science.
Very
Yeah,
interesting
and it
though.
all
Very interesting.
yeah, and that was from an email from Wayne. And I am not sure his area code on his phone says Virginia, so it might be Wayne from Virginia. And he sent this to me back before the New York thing. So this sat here for a while, but I thought it was just something interesting I wanted to bring up. But I will conclude that benzaldehyde is not an issue. Cyanide, the jury is still out. I don't know. We'll have to dig deeper into this.
Well, I don't know what it was interesting to hear and just to kind of think about, like I said, the things that are in food nowadays. There's so many additives, preservatives, all these little things that
Yeah,
everyone's studying.
yeah,
Sometimes, like, I don't know.
no question. I will also say this. I just because I'm doing this isn't just for me. It's for the podcast. It's for our listeners too. I didn't want to just leave it at inconclusive. I tracked down this dietitian and I called her office and I got her receptionist and it was a
Ah,
very nice discussion. I told her who I was. I gave her all of our information to let her, I was inviting her on to the podcast. I think this would be a great topic. It would be even better to hear it from someone who could speak to this
yes,
competently, you know. But I guess she wasn't interested. Never heard back from her. But that I just want to throw that out there that I am, I'm serious about this, guys. I want to find out answers because we all have an interest in firewood. This may not be your interest, but I think we could all be better off, if we know these kind of answers.
definitely. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe you should follow back up with her, but this time include my picture instead of yours. Maybe we'll hear
Yeah.
back from her. Or let
Yeah.
her know that I'm, the co-host here, and she can come up and chat with me.
Yeah. It's it is awkward for me to do that. It's out of my comfort zone, but I still force myself to do it. But man, I don't know. Are you good? Do you feel comfortable like asking strangers, for to be in your video or you know?
Yeah,
I struggle doing that. It's painful for me to ask someone if they want to be in a video. Well, if anything, Dan, that's how I roll. If I hear something, uh, I don't know. I'm still going to look into it just to make sure. And this is how I spent one rainy day. I mean, I was in this for a while, and I saved all my links. Maybe you think we can add those to the
yep,
podcast notes?
yes. Send them on over, and we'll get them in there. But I found it very interesting to, it's another, I guess, side of firewood that is maybe not often thought about.
Yeah, I had heard one time before about mold. I had a restaurant inquire about that because of where they had their wood stored and mold spores, and you got me, bud. I haven't a
Yeah,
clue. But that's where now that I've been down this road here, I want to know. I find it interesting, but I think it's probably something if I take my profession serious, I should be able to speak to it at some level.
yeah, yep, yeah. Be able
Uh-huh.
to talk about it, and like you said, speak at some level to it and address it, or know a little bit about it.
Yeah, well, we had said this before too. Our scientific inquiry into firewood never really dealt with barbecue.
No,
It dealt with dry and BTUs, it dealt with particulate matter. It dealt with that, and that's where there's still a lot of questions that I want to know the answers to. But I think when you try to use Google or any of your online search engines, you can only get so far to
yeah.
where you got to start reaching out to the experts, which I tried. Now that's just one. She told us to beat it. Well, she didn't tell us
Well,
nothing. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No response is not
Yeah.
a is no is not a no. It's just like I said, maybe just follow up with her, or maybe she just you lost track of it. I mean, I've done that
Yeah.
many times with
Well,
email.
in my old profession, we had a saying: "No response is a response." So that's what I took it at that. Yeah. All right. Well, Dan, I have to get back to I got to wrap this tape around my glasses to make me a bigger nerd.
Yeah,
I
take
gotta,
that lab coat off and get back to the
I
woodyard.
gotta put my pocket protector back in my pocket here, and I'm gonna go be more of a amateur scientist.
There you go. I
Yeah.
like that hobbyist scientist.
Yeah. We
All
all, we
right.
can all we can all have hobbies, and science is mine.
Oh, there you go. All
Yeah.
right.
All right. Well, Dan, what do you say? Let's strike up the band and let's get on outside and enjoy this nice weather.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks everyone for tuning in to the Woodhounds, the number one firewood podcast in the world. We'll see you back here each and every week, Wednesdays, 5 a.m. Eastern.
And you can check out the Woodhounds on all of the major streaming services and at our own website, thewoodhounds.com, or at thewoodhoundsamateur.scientists.com.
Yes.
So let's tell everyone out there to stay,
Safe
be a,
scientist.
and have
A great day.